This is Greg Troutwine with Marine Technology TV, and we're very pleased to be joined today by Dr. Robert Ballard to discuss his new book, Into the Deep. Dr. Ballard, you certainly need no introduction to our viewers, as your career and body of work documented in print, online, films, and TV specials speaks for itself. To start, quite simply, with all the material already available about your exploits, why this book? Why now?
Well, there's several reasons. Certainly, I've been at this now 62 years, done 157 expeditions, about to do 158 in a few weeks. And I've sort of reached a point in my career where I really am shifting gears, a number of gears that I'm shifting. One is I was fortunate to win a competition with some of my colleagues to become the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute. So this is a big program with NOAA's Office of Ocean Exploration. As you know, 50% of the United States is underwater, and we have better maps of Mars than half of our own country. So I teamed up with Woods Hole, University of Rhode Island, University of New Hampshire, University of Southern Mississippi, and my Ocean Exploration Trust, and we were awarded an initial 5-year, $100 million program to be renewed for another 5 years. So a 10-year program to map and characterize the US EEZ. So that's going to take 10 years. So I wanted to, all the other stuff leading up to it, I thought, well, let's, I really took advantage as best I could of the pandemic because I didn't go to sea now for almost 2 years. And so it seemed like a perfect time to do an autobiography. I've done a lot of books, but I've never got into my own life. I've always been a fairly private, maybe explorers are just sort of private kinds of people. And I remember I wrote a book, Eternal Darkness, with Princeton Press, and got a really good review from the New York Times, but then they said, didn't learn a thing about the person. And so this is pretty much a very personal book. And it also talks about parts of my life that even at the time I wasn't aware of. I learned through my daughter that I'm dyslexic like her. And that was quite an awakening. And I thought maybe this time to talk about being dyslexic, because you're told a lot as you're going through school. I had a brilliant, super brilliant non-dyslexic older brother who went to Berkeley, Phi Beta Kappa, particle physics. The waves parted, and then I would follow in his footsteps, and teachers would say, oh, you're Richard's brother, you must be. Oh, well, no, you're not. I had A's and B's, but there's a huge difference between an A- and my brother's A+. And that's because I learned differently. So I wanted to talk about that because I view it as a gift. And most kids that are dyslexic won't talk about it and feel they've been told they're stupid. And I really want to reach out to that audience to say, no, you're not. You're following a path where the rules were written by non-dyslexics. And I want to tell you about the path I went down to success, where I was able to take advantage of the gift of dyslexia. So that was another big part of it. And, I also was 2 years ago, I was in a redwood forest, and a brilliant professor from Harvard, Arthur Brooke, talked about how to stay happy while you grow old. And that as you grow old in life, you go through different stages. And when he got to 70 to 80, I'm turning 79, but when I heard his talk, I was like 75 years old. My ears perked up, and he says, when you hit that window in life, there's 3 things you need to do. One is we were with a bunch of redwoods. So he says, these redwood trees are 350 feet tall, but their roots are only 6 feet deep. Why don't they blow over? He says, because those redwoods' roots go laterally and grab onto the other redwoods next to them. And that's called friendships and developing closer bonds. So I'm doing a lot more fishing, a lot more hunting, spending a lot more time with with friends, and I haven't been doing that. I've been mostly working with my academic and professional colleagues. So the second thing he said was, you need to, at this stage of your career, start to mentor the next generation. And so that's what I'm doing. I live, as you see in the book, I've lived in almost 5 worlds simultaneously, in the military, in the academia, in popular science, business, and all of that. And so I've now hired, as of this January, last January, just a few months ago, people to run my different worlds that are now I'm mentoring them. The third thing I'm supposed to do, and this is the one I'm having a little difficulty with, he said, the next time a big project comes along, say no. And I've never said no. So I'm struggling with that one. And you'll have to check back in and see how I did. And I also wanted to fess up on the Titanic. You know, I was a Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Explorer Scout, Army officer, Naval officer. On my honor, I'll do my best. Trustworthy, loyal, friendly, all that. I was brought up, you never lie. And obviously, when it came to the Titanic, I had to fib a little. I wasn't able to tell the true story behind it, that it was actually a cover for a top secret military operation. And so another reason I can now fess up and put on my Cub Scout uniform.
I think you'll be forgiven for that little fib for sure. And having read the book, or most of the book, I can attest that it is a highly personal account. And I'm sure anyone watching this will enjoy reading it. Again, staying on that personal vein, and I'll assume it's going to be very difficult, premised on the long list of friends, colleagues, contributors, and mentors listed in the book's acknowledgments. But if you had to pick just one person, one mentor in your life that had the greatest influence on your career, who is that person and why?
My mom. My mom, because again, following my older brother, my father was an engineer, and my brother and my father were very, very close. I think my brother went down the career path my father wanted to go down, because my father didn't go to college, although was self-taught, flew a Chuck Yeager during the war. But it was really my mom who, because I had a tough time. It was not easy to get where I got. And she was always the person that I fell down, picked me up. She was my mentor. And so, yeah, I'd have to really say it was my mom, although I had a lot of professional people along the way, but I always had mom. And she just passed away not too long ago at 98, after taking care of my handicapped sister. Her entire adult life, she took care of my sister, who died shortly after my mom died. So she was quite a woman.
You can't put a high enough value on moms, and a perfect timing with Mother's Day just passed. As a boy, in your book, you received salient advice from Roger Revelle for guidance for a career studying the oceans. What advice would you give today to a young person mulling a career in this field?
In really pretty much what he said, but slightly modified. When I met with Roger Revelle, he said, oceanography is not something you take in undergraduate. That's a graduate program. It's really a field. It's like spaceologists, landologists, and oceanographers. So it's really an environment in which many, many scientists operate in. So you really need to ground yourself in a basic science first. And I knew I didn't want to be a marine biologist, because as you'll read in the book, I was having a scholarship in high school, and I ended up with 2 Scripps graduates who just got their PhD in marine biology. And I said, "Oh, you're just what I want to be." And they popped my balloon at age 17, said, "Don't do it, we can't get a job." And so I came back from that experience and went off to UC Santa Barbara, knowing I wanted to be in the ocean, knowing I should major in something, but I didn't know what, so I did a quadruple major. I majored in chemistry and geology, and I minored in physics and mathematics. So I sort of became a Swiss Army knife, master of nothing, but pretty good at a lot of things. And as you know, in today's society, you don't get a job and retire and get a gold watch. You go through multiple evolutions. And I've been able to recast myself multiple times because I've had that really strong, broad-based experience in math, physics, chemistry, and geology. I feel I can carry on a conversation and work with people. So I'd say get a really broad base in the sciences.
Dr. Ballard, you've enjoyed or perhaps endured a healthy amount of global celebrity in your career, attention that is unusual in an academic environment for sure. What do you see as the advantages and the disadvantages of this attention?
Well, it's a two-edged sword, definitely. You know, finding the Titanic, particularly when the director of Woods Hole was totally opposed to it. Notoriety opens doors and it closes other doors. And I've always lived on the edge, but because I've lived on the edge, I'm sort of comfortable. But I know I receive a lot of criticism for popularizing science. When I wrote my first article in National Geographic, it was why do you want to waste your time talking to the public when you should be publishing more papers? I published 4 times the average in referee journals, so I knew I had to do that to counter that kind of criticism. But now the National Science Foundation requires scientists to be more communicative, and I've been raised to, by a mom that never stopped talking. So I think I inherited that gene. So I use it as a useful thing, but clearly, as you read in the book, the first part of it starts with my mother calling me days after I found the Titanic and said, "Too bad you found that rusty old boat, because you're a good scientist, and now they're only going to remember you for finding that boat." And so that's true. But I try to, talk to people about what I'm doing, but I know I got in the room to talk because I found the Titanic, but I try to quickly change the conversation.
Obviously, the list of discoveries under your achievements is long. Which is your favorite and why?
Well, everyone wants me to say Titanic. I like to say, kids, my favorite discovery is the one I'm about to make, because rumors of my death are greatly exaggerated. But I would have to say I had sort of 2 really favorite discoveries. Clearly the discovery of hydrothermal vents. That was a showstopper. That rewrote the biology book. That was clearly one of the most significant discoveries ever made in the ocean. So discovering hydrothermal vents in their chemosynthetic life system is completely opened up prospecting for life throughout the universe. And even within our own solar system now, NASA's looking at the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, Io and Enceladus, which have oceans with more water in them than the Earth. So there's a very high probability we'll find life. I don't think we'll find New York City up there, but we're certainly, I hope we get it over with. Yes, there is life elsewhere. But you can't beat Earth, because there's no plan B for the planet. But certainly that was a major discovery. And another one was our discovery of perfectly preserved ancient shipwrecks in the anoxic bottom waters of the Black Sea. That was another home run. So hitting them over the green monster, particularly if you live here in New England, is always a fun thing to do. And those were two home runs.
Dr. Ballard, technology in the subsea space obviously has evolved mightily since a 12-year-old Bob saw 20,000 leagues under the sea on the silver screen. Using that day to today as your bookends, what one technology would you say has most dramatically increased our ability to study the oceans, and why?
Oh, I would say telepresence. I think the fact, and look, here I am. I'm in my own command center. You don't know where I'm physically, doesn't matter. But I can move my spirit. It's sort of like the movie Avatar, where you had that war veteran, remember Jake, and they put him in a room and they were going to move him into a Navi. And so you had at that moment the Navi, 8-foot, blue-green, funny ears and a tail that plugged into a dragon laying on the slab. And Jake's next to him. And then all of a sudden the Navi's eyes opened and he was in the Navi. Do you remember what Jake did the moment he realized he wasn't in his body? He got up and ran. And they thought, oh, he's freaked out. They ran after him. They said, Jake, are you okay? He says, yeah, I'm fine. Why'd you run? And he said, I want the wind in my face again. And he said that because he was a war veteran, paralyzed from the waist down, but now he had legs. And the important thing to remember, he didn't care they were blue-green. And I have a Navi. It's this guy right here. This is Hercules, also a yellow-green looking vehicle. That is my Navi. And so humans, you have to realize that at this very moment, 95% of all humans are living on less than 10% of the planet. That's because we're land-loving, air-breathing, one atmosphere liking, reasonably narrow a temperature window. We've evolved ourselves into a box, but our spirit is indestructible and can move at the speed of light. And when I used to go down to 6,000 feet in the Bathyscaphe Trieste, 6 hours this way, 6 hours that way, 12 hours commuting to work, left minutes on the bottom. When I made a dive to Titanic, which is the average depth of the ocean, 12,000 feet, I spent 5 hours commuting, a few hours on the bottom. Here, put it down, leave it down, and you go 24/7. So the ability to rapidly expand our exploratory technology, but also now with the use of AUVs and autonomous surface vehicles and autonomous, we have a whole cadre of tools we're using now. We call them force multipliers, where we put down our ROVs to do our traditional telepresence back to the beach, but we then put, working with the University of New Hampshire, they have a new vehicle called DREX that can map, but it can also serve as a second vessel. It can tend AUVs, freeing up the mothership. So where we're going now, the technology is going to be rapidly accelerating our rate of discovery.
Okay, no, that's amazing. Staying on that technology vein, what technology do you see today as having the best potential to open the oceans for the coming generations?
Oh, it would be autonomous everything. I don't expect humans to go to sea much. I mean, you go out there to, it's like, I love horseback riding, but I don't ride a horse to work. I think what we're going to be seeing is going out to sea to fish and enjoy it, but send the autonomous ships. Look at DARPA's new autonomous ships. So yeah, we're going to be very much in the world of autonomy and more intelligent autonomous vehicles. So that's where we're headed. I think you're going to see a Navy that's largely uncrewed. You're going to certainly see cargo ships that the only reason they'll want someone on the ship is so the insurance company can blame somebody. But you're going to see containerization completely automated. It's already down to very few people. So that's where we're headed, is the ability to not only use it for professional reasons, but you're going to have a room like this in your house and you're going to rent a robot from Hertz. So I think you're going to see a lot of recreational use of these kinds of technologies. So yeah, we're right at the cutting edge of that technology.
Dr. Ballard, I truly appreciate your time. I just have one more question. Many people watching this know you well, or they think they know you well. What's in this book that you think will surprise even some of your closest friends?
They didn't know I was dyslexic. They knew I was different. I didn't know I was dyslexic until I read the book, The Dyslexic Advantage. You'll see on the book, on the back jacket, comments by Dr. Brock and Frenetti Eide, who wrote the book, The Dyslexic Advantage. That was really the book was quite a going inside and an understanding. I remember when I read the book slowly, I cried because it explained me to me for the first time. And now I've really embraced it. And I realize why I was able to do what I've been able to do, because I'm such a visual creature and I can imagine things in my mind. And it's perfect when I go down to the darkest depths. I look at my sensor systems and I can form a mental image in a world of eternal darkness. So yeah, I think the fact that it explains how I tick.
Okay, well, again, I very much appreciate your time. I look forward to talking to you again on your future discoveries, and I wish you the best of luck with your book.
And June 14th is the companion TV show on National Geographic Channel.